Many project managers think of a WBS as just a simple list of tasks, but in reality, a well-structured and properly maintained work breakdown structure can be a game changer for your projects. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and during the time I've seen firsthand how small WBS mistakes can pile up and keep project managers from taking full advantage of this powerful tool. In today's video, we're going to run through common WBS mistakes and show you how to avoid them so you're not only keeping your project on track, but you're also keeping your team accountable and efficient. Fast facts on the WBS. Let's quickly get on the same page here before we dive in by defining what a WBS is all about. The work breakdown structure is a document that defines all of the high-level things a project needs to accomplish, organized into multiple levels and displayed graphically. You can think of the layout of a WBS as similar to really an org chart. It should look something like this. I would go, and don't worry, I'm going to go into this in more detail later. The WBS can then be used to build out a detailed action plan. I like to use Excel for that. This will help you manage and stay on top of all of your project tasks. Like I said, it's a powerful tool. Not only that though, it's an important tool for team accountability, and we all know that that's an issue in projects. And I'll talk about that in detail in a little bit as well. Not aligning the WBS with project scope. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is not aligning your WBS with the project scope. Without this alignment, let's say it's just really easy to get lost in the weeds and start focusing on tasks that don't directly contribute to the project's success. You might break down the work, but if it doesn't link back to what the project is trying to achieve, you risk spending time on the wrong activities. Make sure that your WBS is always rooted in the big picture. It should reflect the major deliverables and objectives of the project. Everything should be tied back to the scope statement. If you find tasks or activities that don't contribute to the project's outcome, it's time to reevaluate. When your WBS is properly aligned with your project scope, you have a clear roadmap to guide your team and to stay on track. Before we jump into the next huge WBS mistake, I wanted to make sure you know about my free guide. Over the years, I have seen some major project blunders when companies bring me in to help clean things up. To help you avoid these pitfalls, I created the 10 most common mistakes project managers make. Grab your copy now, just click the link below. Failing to fully and clearly break down deliverables. A good WBS isn't just a list of activities, it's a detailed breakdown of deliverables. And if you fail to fully break these down, your project will quickly get out of control. A great way to think about this is like in an org chart, like I told you before. At the top level, instead of CEO, president, you're going to list the project name. Next, you're going to have the deliverable departments or any major objectives you are aiming to complete. This is your level 2, and you get to choose how you want to label that. From there, you're going to break it down further, just like an org chart. Level 3 consists of major activities related to that level 2, that big bucket of work. Then your level 4, you're going to break those major activities into smaller individual tasks that further detail those activities. These are specific actions that need to be completed by your team. Setting it up in this layout makes it easy to get a clear view of the work ahead. It helps you keep track of scope, timing, and resources while breaking down the complexity of the project. The more detailed your breakdown, the clearer the path forward will be. That will help your team understand their role and give you a clear way to track progress, identify potential bottlenecks, and avoid missing critical work. Don't make the mistake of creating your WBS from scratch every time though. This is, believe me, it's a waste of your time. Use a template. Trust me, you have better things to spend your time on than recreating the wheel on every project. That's why my Slay project management course includes so many downloadable document templates along with instructions on exactly how to use them. Missing critical stakeholder input. Another huge mistake is not involving the right team members and stakeholders when you're creating the WBS. You as a project manager may have a great vision of the work ahead, but I promise you, your team is the one who will carry it all out. And if you don't leverage their expertise, you risk overlooking critical tasks, dependencies, or requirements. Once you have completed your project charter and you're clear on the project scope and priorities, you can start building the framework for your WBS. You want to get input from subject matter experts and anyone who has a role in delivering the project. Don't just involve them for validation. Actively engage them in the breakdown of the task and the deliverables. Their insight is going to help ensure that you've captured all the necessary work and that your WBS reflects the true scope of what needs to be done. Ignoring dependencies between tasks. Dependencies between tasks are often overlooked when creating a WBS, and this can be a very costly mistake. Ignoring task dependencies means you may find yourself with a schedule that is out of sync, and it creates delays or confusion down the line. As you break down tasks, be sure to identify which one needs to happen before the other. This helps your sequencing of activities logically, giving you a better idea of project timeline and allowing you to proactively manage risk. Make sure your WBS clearly shows a relationship between tasks so everyone knows what needs to be done and when. And if you want to learn about how to create a WBS, check out my video on the topic. Type in the YouTube search bar, Adriana Girdler, WBS Explained. Failing to update the WBS throughout the project. A WBS is not a one-time creation. It is a living document. Failing to update it as the project progresses is a common mistake that leads to missed deadlines, miscommunications, and confusion about where things stand. As your project evolves, well, so should your WBS. If new tasks emerge, if changes happen to the timeline, or if deliverables are redefined, well, your WBS needs to reflect those shifts. Regularly review and update the WBS to keep everyone on the same page. This not only helps your team stay focused, but also ensures you're aligned with any scope or schedule changes that may arise. Not taking full advantage of the WBS as a communication tool. Okay, so now let's talk about team accountability and how the WBS can help, because I know this is something we all struggle with. A WBS is an amazing communication tool, but many project managers really don't take full advantage of it. If you're not using it to actively communicate with your team, you are missing out. Here's the thing. The WBS can actually replace some of those time-consuming status update meetings. Instead of spending time asking everyone what they're working on and what's the update, set the expectation that each team member updates their portion of the WBS on a regular schedule. I recommend bi-weekly. Make sure the file is saved on a shared drive so you do not have to worry about version control, because that's always a pain. When everyone keeps their tasks current, WBS becomes a real snapshot of the project progress. It shows who's doing what, what's done, and what's coming up next. No more guessing, no more chasing updates, and just clear shared visibility for the whole team. And when your team sees how their work fits into the bigger picture, it builds accountability and encourages collaboration. So don't just create a WBS and forget it. Make it a living document. Use it, update it, and rely on it as your go-to communication tool. Not teaching your team members how to use a WBS to report status updates. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes project managers make is assuming their team automatically knows how to use a WBS for status updates. But if your team isn't trained on what to update, when, and how, it quickly becomes a mess of inconsistencies and missing information. Don't just hand over the WBS. Teach your team how to update their tasks effectively. whether you're using Excel or a shared drive or a project management platform, make sure everyone knows the mechanics of updating tasks, marking their progress, because this is important, and flagging issues. You want to set clear standards. For example, what qualifies as in progress? What does done really mean? How do you note a roadblock? This is a kind of clarity that ensures that when you or the stakeholders look at the WBS, the information is reliable, current, and importantly, consistent across the board. Invest a bit of time up front to train your team, and you'll save yourself a lot of confusion, rework, and delays down the line. Not modeling the right behavior for your team with the WBS. All right, as a project manager, your team looks to you to set the tone, and that includes how the WBS is used. If you're not actively engaged with the WBS, updating it consistently, referring to it in conversations, and using it to quickly guide decisions, then your team won't take it seriously either. And if you're committed to entering your updates by a certain date, make sure you follow through. Your behavior sets the standard. You want to lead by example, okay? Use the WBS the way you expect your team to use it. Shows that you're not just using it as a one-time planning document, but it's a dynamic tool for tracking progress, identifying roadblocks, and making informed decisions. It's powerful. And when your team sees you regularly using the WBS and being transparent about changes or issues, it also builds trust and encourages them to do the same. Consistent modeling of the right behavior strengthens accountability and your overall project management process. Not calling people out when they're not following the process. All right, this one can be uncomfortable, but it is absolutely necessary. If you've agreed on a process, whether it's for the updating the WBS, managing tasks, or providing status updates, don't let it slide if someone isn't following through. As a leader, it is your job to hold everyone accountable. If someone isn't following the process, it's important to address it. You can do this in a very respectful, non-confrontational way, but the key is to address it head on. Not calling out missteps and ignoring processes leads to confusion, and it sets a bad example for the team. Make sure you're sticking to the agreed upon methods and encourage your team to do the same. Now that you know what mistakes to avoid with the WBS, you'll definitely want to take a look at my checklist on how to avoid project failure. I'll put the link below this video. Watch this next. It's a step-by-step video on how to manage a team member who can't take criticism. Oof, that's a hard one. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you found this video helpful, I'd be grateful if you gave this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.